Before we begin, imagine being trapped, afraid, helpless, and then, through smoke, fire, or fear, a dog appears. Not just any dog, but one trained to face danger, and one who chose you. If this story moves you, like this video to honor silent courage, share it with someone who believes real heroes don't always speak. Comment below with the name of a dog that changed your life. Because some stories aren't just watched, they're felt. The school bus had flipped on its side. Metal groaned. Glass shimmered across the frozen road like a field of knives. Somewhere inside, beneath a shattered window and a pile of torn backpacks, a little girl whimpered. Her name was Ellie. 8 years old, soft voice, big eyes, last seen sitting in the back row. No one could reach her. First responders lined the wreckage. Flames licked at the engine block. Time was vanishing. Then, a bark, short, sharp, focused. Through the chaos came a shape, a German shepherd. Muscle, precision, eyes like amber fire. His name was Ranger. K9 unit, search and rescue specialist. Last mission before retirement. He didn't wait for orders. He moved, climbed through smoke and steel, crawled over twisted metal. And then he stopped. A faint cry. A breath. Ellie. Ranger lowered himself, crawling closer, nose pressed to blood and dirt and fear. She reached a hand out. He licked it once, then growled, not at her, but for her. Because the fire was spreading, and he wasn't leaving without her. Ellie was the kind of girl who noticed things others didn't. A robin's nest in the gutter, the crack in her teacher's voice when she talked about her dad, the way her mom stared at bills longer than necessary. She was quiet, but not because she didn't have words, because she didn't think anyone wanted to hear them. Since her dad left, her world had gotten smaller. School, home, repeat. She stopped riding her bike, stopped drawing. Her mom said it was just a phase. Teachers said she was withdrawn. But Ellie knew the truth. She was invisible. The school field trip was supposed to be simple. A museum, a snack, a short ride home. But on the icy highway, when the driver swerved to avoid a deer, everything turned. Screams, flames, then stillness. Ellie couldn't move, pinned beneath a seat, her leg twisted, blood dripping slowly into her sock. She tried to call out, her voice cracked. She thought of her mom, of never saying goodbye. She closed her eyes, and then a bark, not loud, but certain. Ranger had once been the pride of the unit. Explosive detection, disaster response, child recovery. He had been everywhere. Train stations, collapsed buildings, hostage zones. But what made him different wasn't just his skill. It was his choice. Ranger never hesitated, never waited for the handler to speak. He moved when it mattered most. His partner, Officer Reed, used to say, "He doesn't obey. He understands." Then came the warehouse call. A storm, a false wall, a child they almost didn't find. Ranger got her out, but took a hit to the ribs. They told Reed it was time. Early retirement, protocol. But neither of them believed in quitting, so Reed made a deal. One last assignment: ride with emergency units. Help until the end of the quarter. They called it symbolic. But Ranger didn't understand symbolism. He only understood duty. So when the bus went silent and the smoke curled skyward, Ranger jumped from the cruiser window before anyone said a word, because he didn't need permission to go save someone who still had a heartbeat. The smoke inside the bus burned Ellie's throat. The floor was tilted. Her ankle throbbed. Every creak of the metal made her heart stutter. Then, fur, warm, solid, pressing gently against her arm. She opened one eye. The dog. He wasn't barking, wasn't panicked. He was there, present, alive, real. She reached for him with shaking fingers. He met her halfway. One slow lick to her palm, a soft huff of breath, and then he lay down beside her, not to rest, to cover her, to shield her from falling sparks and the growing heat at the front of the wreck. She tried to speak. Are you here for me?" He didn't answer, but his body curved around hers, and in that moment, Ellie wasn't invisible anymore. She was seen, and that was the beginning of everything. The fire was spreading fast. Flames crawled across the bus ceiling like angry fingers. Metal popped. Plastic seats began to melt. Outside, responders were shouting, "Back wall's too unstable. We need backup. We've got one trapped, back row." Inside, Ranger moved. He wedged himself under the twisted frame of a seat, pressed his body beneath the crushed ceiling, used his weight to shift the broken panel off Ellie's leg, just enough. She whimpered. "It hurts." Ranger didn't retreat. He nudged her side, then grabbed the hem of her jacket gently, pulled, stopped, waited, pulled again. Outside, Officer Reed caught sight of the movement. "Wait! He's got someone. He's bringing her out." Firefighters formed a chain. Ranger backed through smoke and sparks, dragging Ellie inch by inch toward the light. She clung to his fur, coughed through the haze, held on, and then air, hands, voices, oxygen. But Ellie didn't let go. As the medics reached for her, she wrapped her arms around Ranger's neck. "He stayed with me," she whispered, "even when it got scary." The hospital room smelled like cotton and hand sanitizer. Ellie lay in bed, ankle-wrapped, an oxygen tube taped under her nose. The TV was on, but silent. Ranger sat by the door, still, alert. Every time a nurse walked in, his ears twitched. Then a voice, low, familiar, filled the room. "He's not supposed to be here, you know." Officer Reed stepped inside, hat in one hand, an old leather folder in the other. Ellie didn't respond. She just reached over and placed her hand on Ranger's head. "He saved me." Reed nodded. He does that. He sat by the bed and opened the folder. Inside, old photos, certificates, a tag worn smooth at the edges. K-9 Ranger, Unit 17, Honor, Duty, Stay. He was supposed to retire last month, Reed said. Too many years, too many fires. They said he'd done enough. Ellie looked at the tag, but he didn't stop. No, Reed said softly, because some dogs don't know how to leave people behind. Ellie turned to Ranger. Can he stay with me? Reed paused. That depends on him. Ranger stood, crossed the room, and laid his head gently on her lap. Answer given. 2 weeks later, Ellie returned to school, a little slower, a little quieter, but not alone. Ranger walked beside her, vested, certified, and calm. The principal hesitated. Is that a police dog? Ellie stood taller. He's my police dog. Her classmates didn't tease her anymore. They asked questions. They listened. At recess, she sat beneath the big oak tree with Ranger curled beside her. One boy approached. Is it true he saved you from fire? Ellie nodded. He didn't just save me. He stayed when everything else was burning. That weekend, a fire alarm rang in a nearby apartment building. False alarm. But panic still spread. Ellie and her mom were walking by when they saw the crowd, people shouting, a child crying, alone by a stairwell. Ellie didn't wait. She knelt. Go, Ranger. And he did, straight to the little boy. He didn't bark, didn't touch. He just sat beside him, still, present. The boy stopped crying because someone was with him. When responders arrived, Ellie stood nearby, hand clenched around Ranger's leash. He doesn't just rescue, she whispered. He reminds people they're not alone. The firehouse sent Ranger a thank you basket, chew toys, a medal made from a recycled badge, a card signed by 20 children in red crayon. Ellie hung it above her desk. Her teacher invited her to speak in class. She didn't read from paper. She spoke from memory. I thought being brave meant not being scared, but Ranger taught me it means staying, even when you are. No one laughed. No one blinked. One girl raised her hand. Can I draw him? Ellie smiled. Only if I get to keep it. They laughed together. At night, Ellie didn't sleep with the light on anymore. She didn't check the door twice. She just rested her hand on the side of the bed where Ranger lay. Warm, breathing, real. Her mom stood quietly at the doorway watching. He's good for you, she whispered. Ellie looked up. We're good for each other. And outside, the wind carried no fear, only peace. By spring, Ellie and Ranger had become a familiar sight around town. Library visits, school talks, quiet walks with louder impact. The mayor invited Ellie to speak at Safety Day. She stood in front of a small crowd, microphone shaking in her hand, Ranger sitting like stone beside her. When I was trapped, I thought no one would find me. Then Ranger came. He didn't bark. He didn't shout. He just stayed. And that was enough. Applause wasn't loud, but it was genuine. Afterwards, parents approached her. My daughter's been afraid to sleep alone. Could she talk to you? My son asked if dogs can feel love. I didn't know how to answer. Ellie did. She knelt beside Ranger and said, "They don't just feel it. They become it." A local newspaper ran a feature titled, "The Girl Who Was Found and Now Finds Others." Ellie cut it out and taped it to her wall. Not for praise, but to remind herself, I'm not who I was, and I'm never going back there. Ellie used to flinch at sirens. Now she followed them, with Ranger. They'd been invited to join the Junior Community Response Program. Not official responders, but official comfort. After each incident, fire, flood, even lockdown drills, Ranger would sit beside shaken children, and Ellie would speak the words she once needed to hear. You're safe now. He doesn't leave. One evening, a boy who had lost his home in a fire hugged Ranger tightly and asked, "How do you know when everything will be okay?" Ellie smiled. You don't. You just keep walking, and someone walks with you. She had grown taller, more confident, still quiet, but with a voice that carried meaning. She began writing her story, not to relive it, but to share what it taught her. Courage has 4 legs. It became a school library favorite. At the dedication page, it simply read, "For Ranger, who didn't save me once, but every day after." And as she signed copies at the school fair, Ranger lay beside her, tail thumping gently with every child who whispered, "I want to be brave like you." Some heroes don't carry shields. They carry scars. They walk on 4 legs, and they stay long after the danger is gone. Ranger didn't save Ellie because someone told him to. He saved her because he chose to. He didn't ask who she was, didn't care where she came from. He only saw someone who needed not to be left behind. And Ellie? She didn't become brave in one night. She became brave every time she remembered. I was worth staying for. Because real courage isn't loud. It's not in shouting or standing tall. It's in sitting beside someone who's afraid to speak and waiting until they're ready. And sometimes the loudest love is the one that never walks away.